Imagine being one of the biggest YouTubers in the world. Millions of followers, global recognition, a loyal fan base that hangs onto every word you say. And then suddenly becoming the face of what people call a failed TV experiment. That's exactly what happened to Lilly Singh. But here's the thing most people got completely wrong. The story isn't as simple as her show wasn't funny. Not even close. Because behind the scenes, there were decisions being made that would have made almost anyone struggle. Tight budgets, impossible schedules, and a system that tried to force a digital creator into a decades-old TV format that didn't fit her at all. Years later, Lilly herself started opening up about what really happened, and what she revealed changes everything. Because when you look at the full picture, the real question isn't whether Lilly failed. It's whether she was ever given a real chance to succeed in the first place. Before stepping into television, Lilly Singh wasn't just successful, she was dominating YouTube. She built an empire on her own terms, with content that felt personal, energetic, and authentic. Her audience didn't just watch her, they connected with her. That connection was her biggest strength. So when NBC gave her a late-night show, it seemed like a no-brainer. Millions of followers should translate into millions of viewers, right? But that assumption is exactly where things started to go wrong. Because the network didn't fully understand what made her successful in the first place. They saw numbers, not nuance. They saw popularity, not platform. Instead of adapting the show to fit her style, they placed her into a traditional late-night format, a structure that had worked for decades with completely different personalities. Expectations were sky-high. The industry was watching. And on paper, everything looked like it should work perfectly. But sometimes, the biggest setups lead to the hardest falls. When the show finally aired, the reaction was immediate. And it wasn't what anyone expected. Instead of praise, criticism started flooding in. Viewers called the jokes awkward, forced, even cringy. And while that might sound like a surface-level issue, the real problem ran much deeper. The show didn't feel like Lilly. It felt like a version of her trying to fit into a mold that didn't belong to her. Her core audience, younger, digital-first viewers, weren't tuning in at 1:30 a.m. to watch a traditional talk show. They were used to short, fast, relatable content, not structured monologues and scripted segments. So what happened was a complete disconnect. The audience she built wasn't showing up, and the audience watching late-night TV wasn't connecting with her style. It was the worst of both worlds. And with every episode, the gap between expectation and reality grew wider. But what viewers didn't see was just how stacked the odds were behind the scenes. What was happening off-camera explains a lot more than what people saw on screen. Lilly revealed that her team was filming 2 to 3 episodes per day, something that's almost unheard of in late-night television. Most shows film 1 episode a day for a reason. It takes time to write, refine, and perfect the material. But her show had to produce 96 episodes in just 3 months. That kind of schedule doesn't just create pressure, it destroys quality. The reason? Budget limitations. Instead of spreading production out, everything was compressed into a shorter time frame to save money. That meant writers had less time to develop jokes, less time to test ideas, and barely any room to improve content. Even worse, the writing team was smaller than those of other shows. So now you have fewer people doing more work in less time. Lilly herself admitted there were moments where she walked on stage knowing the jokes weren't strong, but she had no choice but to deliver them anyway. And that feeling, it translates through the screen, whether viewers realize it or not. Just when things couldn't get more complicated, the timing of the show created another major problem. A significant portion of the episodes had been filmed before the global pandemic, but aired during it. That created a surreal disconnect. audiences stuck at home were suddenly watching content about parties, travel, and social interactions, things that no longer matched reality. It felt out of touch, even though it wasn't intentional. And then came season 2, which was produced entirely during the pandemic. No live audience, no in-person interviews, everything done over Zoom. Technical issues, lagging connections, and a lack of real energy made it even harder to keep viewers engaged. Other late-night shows struggled too, but they had already established their identity. Lilly's show was still trying to find its footing, and instead, it had to survive in one of the most difficult production environments imaginable. At that point, it wasn't just about making a good show, it was about surviving circumstances no one could control. Behind all the production issues and public criticism, there was a much deeper impact happening internally. Lilly later admitted that after the first season, she was in one of the worst mental, physical, and emotional states of her life. And when you think about it, it makes sense. Imagine working under constant pressure, being publicly criticized, and at the same time, feeling disconnected from your own work. She described the experience of delivering jokes she didn't fully believe in, smiling, laughing, performing, while internally knowing it wasn't her best. That disconnect can be exhausting. Over time, it starts to affect your confidence, your energy, and even your sense of identity. That's when she made a decision that would shape everything moving forward. She would never again commit to a project unless she could genuinely feel proud of it. That shift wasn't just about career choices. It was about protecting her mental health. But just as she was dealing with all of this, another unexpected challenge hit her. Despite everything, this wasn't the end of her story. It was a turning point. Instead of stepping away, Lilly adapted. She continued creating content, but on her own terms. She expanded into acting, producing, and even launched projects through her own production company. She also made strategic business moves, including investing in professional sports teams, a major shift that showed she was thinking beyond just content creation. She embraced platforms like podcasts, where she could speak freely without the constraints of traditional TV. More importantly, she became more selective. Every project had to align with her values, her voice, and her standards. This wasn't about chasing validation anymore. It was about building something sustainable and authentic. In many ways, she didn't just recover. She evolved. And that evolution might be more important than any late-night show ever could have been. One of the most surprising parts of her experience had nothing to do with TV at all. It came from the very platform that made her famous. Lilly had always been a strong advocate for YouTube and its creators. She supported others, helped promote the platform, and genuinely believed in the idea of a creator community. So naturally, she expected some level of support when she made the jump to television. But that's not what happened. Instead, many creators quickly criticized her show, sometimes harshly. And while not everyone did this, the impact was still significant. She described feeling a sense of betrayal, not because she expected blind support, but because she believed in something that didn't quite exist the way she imagined. It was a hard realization. The internet isn't a family. It's a space where people have opinions, and those opinions don't always align with your expectations. That moment forced her to rethink not just her career, but her understanding of the industry as a whole. So when people look back and say Lilly Singh failed on late-night TV, they're only seeing a small part of the story. Because this wasn't just about one show. It was about an entire system trying to force a new kind of creator into an old format that no longer fits today's audience. It was about timing, pressure, expectations, and a rapidly changing entertainment landscape. And maybe the biggest takeaway is this: success isn't always about what happens in the moment. Sometimes it's about what you learn after everything falls apart. Today, traditional late-night television is struggling, while creators are building massive audiences on digital platforms. in their own way, on their own terms. So maybe the real question isn't whether Lilly failed. Maybe she was just ahead of her time. And if that's the case, then what looked like failure might actually have been the beginning of something much bigger.